Hey everyone, Tad Larkin here with a special thank you to all of my supporters over the years, as we've finally hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. The road has been long and arduous, but we finally made it, and I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you to all who have been liking and sharing my videos and getting them seen outside of YouTube. It's been a tremendous help getting us to where we are now, and will continue to help the channel grow and develop for the future. You all voted on my community page what you would like to see for the 5,000 subscriber milestone, and the winner was pretty clear cut. So, without further ado, here's my top 10 Star Wars Expanded Universe characters. Number 10 on our list is the Kel Dor Jedi Master and Keeper of the Jedi Archives, Nos Dural. Though I haven't yet played the Star Wars The Old Republic MMO where his character plays a larger role, I have read about him in the Old Republic Encyclopedia, as well as the Old Republic Annihilation. However, what really attracted me to this character was a series of videos chronicling the Great Galactic War, and the conflicts leading up to it. When the Old Republic MMO was announced in 2009, I followed its career with great interest after being exposed to the still epic Deceived trailer that captivated audiences in June of that same year. Since then, every day after school I would log on to SWTOR.com and see if there were any news updates, and that's where I discovered the Old Republic Timeline, a series of videos that would release semi-monthly from what I recall, where this Jedi Master named Nos Dural, narrated by Lance Henriksen, aka Bishop from Aliens, would compile events and present them to you as if you were watching an in-universe holocron. I felt like a Padawan studying at the Jedi Library. Apart from being a galactic historian, Nos Dural was also a very capable warrior, who was well versed in the lightsaber combat forms of Zarisu, Djemso, and Juyo, very similar to Jocasta Nu, except, maybe without the crabby old librarian attitude.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
Needless to say, Nos Dural and his Old Republic timeline on SWTOR.com was a major inspiration for Mandalore, especially the format in which I present my videos, and thus, his spot is reserved on our top 10 list. At number 9, we have the Snivian racketeer, entrepreneur, and restaurateur extraordinaire, Marn Hieroglyph. First appearing in the Knights of the Old Republic comics, Marn Hieroglyph is an opportunist, more appropriately con artist, as he's always cooking up some scheme to make money, often suckering in his compatriots, Zane Carrick, his former pursuer, and a repurposed bulk loader droid, T1LB. I love Marn because he always has something up his sleeve, whether it's a scheme to make some quick creds, or one of his many elaborate aliases to get out of a tight spot, or to con someone out of their own credits. He always has something cooking. He's so shady and slippery, but at the same time he's just so damn hilarious that you just can't help but like the guy. I mean, this is a being who set up a greasy spoon at a Republic military camp in the middle of a Mandalorian blockade, and managed to get right out before they nuked the planet's surface. All of these qualities make Marn Hieroglyph a worthy sidekick to Zane Carrick, as well as worthy of the number 9 slot on my list. Up next on my list is probably one of the most iconic and beloved Star Wars Expanded Universe characters, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Grand Admiral Mithra Nuro Udo, or more commonly known by his core name, Thrawn, first appeared in Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire as the main antagonist. This mysterious blue-skinned, red-eyed chiss, calling himself the 13th Grand Admiral when there were only previously known by the Alliance to be 12, which were all previously defeated, rose up and scooped up the fragmented remnants of the Empire to lead them against the upstart New Republic 5 years after the Emperor's death at Endor. I love Thrawn for many reasons, but the first thing that stands out to me is he was a different kind of villain from what we were used to seeing in the expanded universe. Thrawn wasn't some dark Jedi or Sith with immense power wanting to destroy the Jedi, or some maniac despot that wanted to bring the galaxy under his control. Thrawn was an ordinary being, with a gift for tactics, strategy, and logistics, who wanted what he saw as an insurgency quelled and the legitimate government of the galaxy restored to power. Thrawn didn't use brawn or force powers or overwhelming military might to get the upper hand on his adversaries. He used his superior intellect to utilize what minimal resources he had within the Imperial Remnant and put them to the most effective use. And for the most part, he succeeded before something unforeseen became his undoing. As someone who appreciates and studies military history, I find that Grand Admiral Thrawn contains echoes of other great military geniuses from real-life history, like Napoleon Bonaparte, Admiral Horatio Nelson, and Otto von Bismarck, combining all the great qualities of these great military minds, earning him the number 8 spot on my list. Coming up on number 7, we have Jaina Solo, daughter of Han and Leia Organa Solo, an amazing Galactic Alliance pilot, and Sword of the Jedi. What I love about Jaina is that she inherits all of these amazing qualities from her forebearers. She has her mother and grandmother's tenacity and stubbornness, her grandfather and uncle's aptitude with the Force and piloting skills, and her father's ambition, intuition, and wise-ass attitude. Though I haven't read many of the Young Jedi Knight novels apart from what's outlined in my source books, I find I'm able to relate more to her in the Dark Nest and Legacy of the Force novels, as she's closer to my own current age. I love the dynamic she maintains with Zek and Jagged Fel throughout the Dark Nest and Legacy novels, especially when they're forced to work together in Legacy of the Force. I find their banter as Zek and Jag compete for Jaina's affection extremely hilarious. The three end up pulling together in the end, and the only thing I really disliked with the direction of Jaina's character is her ultimately falling in love with Jagged Fel when I rather liked her with Zek. But it still works. It would have been interesting to see Jaina's story continue after the Legacy of the Force and the Fate of the Jedi novels, as she was set up to be sort of the main protagonist for that part of the Legacy era, with her proclamation as Sword of the Jedi by Luke in Destiny's Way. But, stuff happened, and, well, we're never gonna get to see that, unfortunately. Nevertheless, Jaina maintains a solid number 7 on my top 10 list. Next up, I've got Talon Karrde at number 6. Also introduced in Heir to the Empire, Talon Karrde was a smuggler and information broker, who basically took advantage of the power vacuum left by Jabba's death to secure power for his own organization. What's great about Talon Karrde is he's so unlike many of the other crime bosses we're introduced to in the expanded universe. He's not mindlessly ruthless and cruel like Jabba the Hutt, nor was he cold and calculating like Prince Xizor. Talon Karrde simply knew the value of information and wasn't one to give it freely. Intel was his moneymaker, not spice, gambling, or illegal arms. He also treated the underlings in his organization fairly well, recognizing talent, hard work, and loyalty, and rewarding it promptly. We see this when he promoted Mara Jade after only being within the organization for 6 months. He based his decision on what he saw in her performance. Don't get him wrong though, Talon Karrde wasn't afraid to crack a few skulls when he had to. He may have been fair and gentlemanly, but he was no pushover. It was these qualities in him that made him seem unique and attracted me to the character of Talon Karrde, and made me eager to read more of his adventures after the Thrawn trilogy. Like numbers 6 and 8 on my top 10 list of favorite EU characters, number 5 was also first introduced in Heir to the Empire, and became a major character afterwards. I'm speaking, of course, of Mara Jade. Mara Jade experiences, in my opinion at least, some of the most prolific character development in the entire post-Return of the Jedi era expanded universe. She starts her life off as a servant of the dark side of the Force, being scooped up by Palpatine as a toddler and being trained as one of his Emperor's hands, losing everything including her station in life after her master's death at Endor to becoming one of Talon Karrde's most trusted lieutenants. She's tortured by the voice of her late master, repeatedly telling her to kill Luke Skywalker, who she ends up having to work with to survive the hostile forests of Myrkr, all while resisting the urge to kill him. Her desire to kill Luke is only quelled when she helps him defeat the deranged clone of an old Jedi Master, Jeruus Sabaoth, on Wayland, and lands the killing blow on an evil clone of Luke Skywalker himself, taken from the hand he lost on Cloud City to Darth Vader. About a decade later, she ends up falling in love with Luke, marrying him, and even starting a family with him after training as a Jedi in his restored Jedi Order. This roller coaster ride of ups and downs in her life is indicative to, well, everyone's life, as we all go through rough patches and experience changes of heart. We all have our dark days, but they pass. And seeing her go through all of this throughout her life really makes Mara Jade seem like an actual human, which is hard to find in a space fantasy genre like Star Wars. Mara was controversially killed off in Legacy of the Force Sacrifice by her nephew, Jacen Solo, now Darth Caedus. However, I kinda have the unpopular opinion that I was fine with her death. However sad it was to see such an important and iconic expanded universe character go, her death served its purpose to the story, and I thought Karen Traviss gave her a pretty good send-off. At number 4 on my list, we have the ferocious granddaughter of the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy, Mirta Gev. Mirta Gev is a half-human, half-Kefar bounty hunter. Her mother, Aelin Vel, was the daughter of Boba Fett and Syntes Vel, making her the granddaughter of Boba Fett. We are first introduced to the up-and-coming bounty hunter Mirta Gev in Legacy of the Force Bloodlines, where she comes into the service of Boba Fett, looking to track down his surviving daughter, Aelin Vel, because he had just learned he was dying. Mirta pretends to help him, but little does he know that she's actually looking to kill him in revenge for leaving her mother and grandmother shortly after her mother's birth. While working with Boba, Han, and Leia Organa Solo on Corellia, Mirta learns of her mother's death at the hands of Jacen Solo, who is slowly turning to the dark side at this point, and her whole plan of killing her grandfather falls apart right in front of her. She spills the beans, and Leia intervenes before it comes to blows. However, Boba and Mirta reconcile after recovering Aelin's body and burying her on Geonosis next to Boba's father, Jango Fett. I love Mirta because throughout the subsequent books, she continues to work with Boba to track down a cure for Boba's degrading health due to his clone origins, and their dynamic I find extremely entertaining, especially because Boba is reticent, stalwart, and very professional, and Mirta Gev is still relatively new to the bounty hunter game, and is just this wise-ass kid who's not afraid to give one of the most feared men in the galaxy a dose of sarcasm.
Take the, President of Mandalore up to Master Fraig's suite. All drinks on the house.
So they didn't quite grasp what being Mandalore meant. That was okay, because Fett didn't either. Mirta stifled laughter, but only Fett heard it. He switched to the helmet comlink with a blink.
So you do have shares here, Baba Weir?
She said.
Depending on how many guests Fraig's got, I might need your help. Try not to kill them, unless they ask for it. Yes, sir, Mr. President. I liked you better without a sense of humor.
The downside of falling in love with this character and following her adventures after Legacy of the Force is she's basically set up to take her grandfather's role as leader of the Mandalorians when we see her in Star Wars Crucible. But, well, things happened, and we're never gonna get to see more adventures with Mirta, as her story remains unfinished like so many others. Getting into the top 3, we have Booster Terrik, probably one of the slyest criminals in the entire galaxy. The Corellian smuggler Booster Terrik got his smuggling start during the Clone Wars, and remained extremely lucky for most of his criminal career. He always managed to stay one step ahead of the authorities. Booster will always remark that the only man to ever outsmart him was Hal Horn, a Corellia security or Corsec operative that had been tracking Booster for years, and was the cause of him being sentenced to 5 grueling years in the spice mines of Kessel, while his daughter Mirax Terrik oversaw his smuggling operations. He would go on to form a close relationship with the Antilles family on Corellia, and often kept a lookout for Wedge Antilles, whose parents died in a freak refueling accident. Much to Booster's indignation, his daughter Mirax fell in love with the son of his despised enemy, New Republic X-Wing pilot and later Jedi Master Corran Horn. However, if it wasn't for Horn, Booster would have never achieved what I think at least was his greatest accomplishment. Around 7.5 years after the Battle of Yavin, Wedge and Corran enlisted the help of Booster Terrik in defeating Imperial Director Isani Isard, and at the Battle of Yag Dul, Booster helped Rogue Squadron and Pash Kraken capture a couple of Star Destroyers. For the ensuing Battle of Thyfera, Booster was given temporary control of the captured Imperial II class Star Destroyer Virulence, and he fought valiantly alongside the New Republic to liberate Thyfera, as well as the Executor class Super Star Destroyer Luzankia. Alright, but here's where it gets even better, because after the battle, when Booster was ordered to relinquish command of the Virulence, he had the balls to tell the ruling galactic government, while staring down the nose of a captured Super Star Destroyer, basically, no, screw you, I'm keeping the ship. Eventually, he negotiated his way into keeping the Virulence, provided that he stripped the Star Destroyer of most of its heavy weapons to comply with civilian armament laws, and he became the only known person in the galaxy to privately own an Imperial Star Destroyer. Booster would go on to paint the Virulence red, rename her the Errant Adventure, and turn her into a mobile space casino. How friggin' cool is that? Booster Terek earns the number 3 spot on my list because he basically gives no shits whatsoever, does whatever he wants, and you can't do a damn thing to stop him. And there's just something I find very admirable about that. Tied at the number 2 spot because I couldn't really decide which one I liked more, and they're pretty much a pair anyways, is Kal Skirata and Walon Vau. First introduced in the Republic Commando novel series by Karen Travis, Kal Skirata and Walon Vau were Mandalorians who were hand-picked by Jango Fett to train the clone army on Kamino. Kal was more of a caring instructor than Walon was, as he recognized they were really just training kids in the beginning. Walon, however, was cold and cruel to the group of kids under his training. Through Kal Skirata, we the readers learn more about the Mandalorian culture and language, as Kal teaches these same principles to his clone trainees. He even goes on to adopt a few of them by the Mandalorian tradition of Gai Balmanda, whereas Walon Vau teaches his trainees little if anything of their progenitor's heritage. This is why we see Omega Squad, who were trained by Kal Skirata, retain more of their Mandalorian heritage than, say, Delta Squad, who were trained by Walon Vau. It's established that Walon and Kal, being so different from one another, hate each other, and even come to blows at some points. However, as the series progresses, it's interesting to see Walon and Kal's relationship improve as they continue to aid the Republic Spec Ops during the Clone Wars. These two grumpy old men go from hating each other's guts to finding mutual respect and even friendship by the time Order 66 is enacted, and Walon's change of heart allows him to aid Kal in finding a cure for the clone's accelerated aging and setting up a refuge for any clone that wants to leave the GAR. It's obvious that I love Kal Skirata because he was a Mandalorian, as well as my conduit for learning everything I know about the Mandalorian culture and language, but I equally admire his dynamic with Walon Vau, and enjoyed watching them transform from enemies into friends. My first tattoo was even a direct homage to Kal Skirata and Walon Vau. It's a Mythosaur skull with Mondoa characters reading Koi Val Dar, which holds a double meaning, because it's what the training sergeants who trained the clone army were called, and it translates to those who no longer exist, because they, as well as all the other characters on this list, were decanonized in 2014, and I immortalize them where no corporation can erase them for as long as I live. Number 1 on my top 10 list of favorite expanded universe characters really shouldn't be a surprise for anyone who has been following me since my early days on YouTube. As a matter of fact, my first YouTube channel, where I got my start making stop-motion LEGO videos, is named after him. I'm speaking, of course, about ARC-77, better known as Captain Fordo. An integral part of my childhood, as well as why I'm as big of a fan of Star Wars, is the 2003 Clone Wars miniseries by famed Samurai Jack creator Genndy Tartakovsky. In the second chapter of Clone Wars, we're introduced to the ARC Troopers, a group of elite Special Operations clone troopers, and I was mesmerized by the Red ARC Trooper, as he silently communicated with his squad through hand signals, and took out the artillery platform preventing Republic troops from advancing on Munilinst. Another thing that attracts me to Captain Fordo is the mystery. He has this mysterious vibe to him, almost like Boba Fett, where you know nothing about this character, but you want to. And sadly, outside of the source books and the Clone Wars series itself, there's no other stories he appears in. Mysteriousness and childhood nostalgia aside, let's talk about the real reason why Captain Fordo is number 1. because he's a complete and total badass. I mean, not only did he and his ARC troopers help turn the tide of the Battle of Munilinst, but he was also one of the few clone troopers to go up against General Grievous and survive when he rescued Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shaak-Ti, and Aayla Secura on Hypori. I know I'm probably going to ruffle a few feathers when I say this, but just my opinion here. Captain Rex from the 2008 Clone Wars series may be cool. However, he'll never be single-handedly fending off a line of super battle droids while hip-firing a DC-15A blaster rifle, simultaneously wielding a service pistol cool. Sorry. Captain Fordo was truly one of the greatest clone trooper characters to have graced the EU, and I regret that we never had more stories featuring him before the expanded universe was decanonized. Welp, there you have it. Laid out before you is my top 10 favorite Star Wars Expanded Universe characters. Write in the comments what your top 10 favorite EU characters are. If you aren't familiar with the Star Wars Expanded Universe, go to my channel page and explore, and if you like what you see, give it a like and subscribe. At any rate, thanks again to all who supported my channel throughout the years, and let's hope for another 1,000 subscribers soon. Thanks for watching. Tad Larkin, out.